all of these recent allegations against the Northwestern football athletic programs, it seems as if Northwestern is having as much of a rough week as Penn State did back in 2011 with the Jerry Sandusky ordeal and the firing of longtime head coach Joe Paterno. That is probably the biggest thing and the biggest similarity that I have gotten out of this entire case with the Northwestern football and now baseball programs being put under fire for hazing. It's going to be, without doubt, the longest week of transfer requests wanting to go through. No one wants to be at Northwestern anymore, and the university is having to clean up from its dire mess that it caused itself. But who knows if this is from years or decades or even centuries ago that stuff like this has happened at Northwestern. As I said, this is not unfamiliar to us college football fans, nonetheless college sports fans, or people in college that have gone to college in general. This is very common. Hazing is very common. And the Big Ten institutions like Northwestern are notorious for hazing. They're so notorious for it. One of the worst cases of hazing in 2017 happened in Penn State. And Penn State, Indiana Hoosiers, the Northwestern Wildcats, Michigan, Iowa, Nebraska, we're all used to hazing. We're all used to the party life. So taking advantage of that is one thing, but actually doing the stuff that you did to players is another. We not only have seen the worst out of humanity come out through this whole ordeal, in my opinion will come out in the end, but we're also seeing outstanding journalism being done. And you know, when I heard the Daily Northwestern was the first people that actually accepted the opportunity to talk to players, keep in mind, these are student journalists. I was once a student journalist for 5 different publications, including the Indiana Daily Student, IUS TV, WIUX Radio 99.1 FM, the Hoosier Network, the Daily Hoosier, and on and on and on. I don't like getting into my work history, but I have been a member of 5 different publications at Indiana University. And the fact that we don't have that much transparency with the athletic department shocked the crap out of me every time we were there. Because one of the first things that my editors told me when I applied for IUS-TV to work for last fall's sports section is that men's basketball will never open up to us, but there are so many other SIDs or sports information directors that will open up in other sports. When I tried even working for a publication such as the Big Ten Plus, it was very, very difficult to even be in contact with anyone with information necessary to work for IUS TV or WIUX and work with us, for people to work with us and communicate with us. This was a power struggle with every department I had at Indiana University. Everyone except for softball. But that's for another day. So for the Daily Northwestern to have that much access to Northwestern football and to their whole athletic department is an accomplishment to student journalism. Their article, which I will leave down in the description below if you have not read it, went to extensive detail about what happened at Northwestern, including the Shrek list and the constant hazing, the groping, all sorts of stuff. But they did it in class. They did all of it with class. And that's the power of student journalism in the 21st century, in a decisive and in a divisive world with a very unbipartisan electoral party in Democrats and Republicans not agreeing with sides, and for our news publications to go right or to go left. The Daily Northwestern spoke facts when facts were needed. They told the story with elegance and grace, and they spoke on it the proper way, the right way, and the mature way. To have all this access to sports, SIDs, to information from players, their sources, their materials. As a former IU publication writer, I will say it's great you guys have that much access. We don't. And more than other Big Ten institutions like Penn State or Wisconsin or a school like that, you guys, I'm jealous. And it's not all because that their publication has all this access. It's that they got to communicate with players. It's rare for us to include players in all of IU's publications. And I'm probably the first one to say it. But IU publications and SIDs have had a huge problem since the Bob Knight years. So in the end, I'm just going to say Northwestern, the Daily Northwestern, I give you a humongous round of applause. And for anyone that has not checked out this article and has not checked out their content, look also at Michigan State's content. They did the same thing during the shooting and reported it eloquently. I mean, they got story upon story upon story about a student and her roommate getting into a fight, and then all of a sudden they had to think of reality and think of the situation that occurred with the shooting back in February. And then there was eyewitness accounts from the police department, the fire department, the students who were in these buildings. They got eyewitness accounts. And I know a lot of people that work for all sorts of publications at Indiana University. And as I am going to mention at the end, this situation at Northwestern is so good to student journalism because of Peabody, which is the highest award you could get in student journalism. This deserves all credit where credit is due. And it shows you where facts and people can be trusted in this polarizing world of non-bipartisanship. All in all, value student journalism. And I highly advise everyone watching this video today to take a look at some of these kids' articles. They are thoughtful. They are full of grace. They are full of references and diction. They are full of facts. And you're not going to get that today in the New York Times or the Washington Post. The Daily Northwestern was the first to report the hazing allegations at a school prominent and full of hazing all the way throughout. But they reported this with the most grace I have ever seen from a student publication. And I highly recommend to anyone that is able to access student journalism and access these student publications, because you don't know where the next facts are coming from.